What if free valuations are holding your estate agency business back? I'm Neil Whitfield, and in this video I'm going to talk about how getting invited to fewer free valuations and turning your online free valuation tool off could actually be a game changer for your estate agency business. Do you offer free valuations on your website or in the window of your high street estate agency office? Do you class this offer as one of your unique selling points? If so, have you ever stopped to consider how unique this offer really is? I mean, do you know of any agent in your town who doesn't offer free valuations? It's before my time, but I have it on very good authority that back in the day, estate agents actually used to charge for their expertise and advice when valuing a potential seller's home. But one day, some bright spark estate agent got the idea to offer a free valuation. Soon all of their local competitors could see how popular this was, and they quickly followed suit. And in no time at all, every single agent from Land's End to John O'Groats now offers free valuations. At the end of the day, the seller will know and accept that it's a sacrifice that they're willing to make. They'll have a few opinions on what their property could be worth if they decided to sell it, and it's only taken up a few hours of their valuable time. But have you ever stopped to think what agents actually get out of this? Most sellers will only instruct one agent to sell their home, initially at least. So, if you're invited out to the free valuation beauty parade alongside a couple of your local competitors, you've got no guarantee at all that you'll even have the chance to put the property on the market and earn your fee. If you've got a good local reputation, if you can show impressive market share pie charts, or you've come highly recommended, then I suppose you do stand a better chance of being successful, but it's still something of a lottery. What happens if someone tempts the seller with a stupidly high valuation and an equally ridiculous low fee just to win the business? You'll know it happens. But you've got to be in it to win it, so everyone just keeps their head down like a good boy or girl, plays the game, and doesn't want to rock the boat. Why sellers really invite you into their home? Have you ever stopped to wonder why sellers are getting these free valuations? Now, this might sound like the stupidest question in the world, and it might cause you to wonder if I have the first clue about running a successful estate agency business. Trust me, I do. And the more you think about it, I hope you'll see the less of a stupid question that this appears to be. But it took me a while for the penny to drop. You see, when they're armed with 2 or 3 valuations, it only goes part of the way to actually answering the question that I'd suggest most sellers are asking themselves. They want to know what they can afford, and armed with that, they want to know where they can move. That will solve the problems that they're looking to solve. The valuation is a vital number, but they also need to factor in what mortgage they can afford and the prices in the areas where they're looking to move. It's pretty obvious when you stop to think about it, but did you ever realise when you cheerily bid your seller farewell as you leave their home, having given them a free valuation, that you may actually be leaving them in a state where their needs are not fully satisfied? Because trust me, that isn't a great state for a provider of services to leave a potential client. It means that they then need to spend time doing other stuff to square the circle and truly satisfy their needs. More often than not, it means spending additional hours trawling the portals looking for their new home that will scratch their itch. And chances are it also means they need to speak to a financial advisor, or at the very least plug their details into another online tool where they'll get an indication of the size of the mortgage that they'll be offered. It's only then that they'll really have all the answers they're looking for. If only there was a knowledgeable local property professional who they could turn to, who could guide them and advise them through the whole process. How often do you ask them about their wider needs before you turn up at the valuation appointment? I don't mean just filling in a form or getting them to tick a box. I mean really going into detail about the real reasons that are motivating their move. In my experience, many agents might be asking this in a very surface level way, but few really go into this in the sort of detail that I think will help both them and, crucially, their sellers. Why free online valuation tools are even worse. Here's my next stupidly obvious question. Have you ever wondered why online free valuation tools are so popular? They're popular with sellers because they enable sellers to get a good enough answer to their question about how much their property might be worth without having to break out the coffee and the biscuits and spend an afternoon in the company of estate agents. More often than not, all they need to do is to give up their email address. In this way, I'd suggest that online free valuation tools are responsible for further devaluing the status of the lowly estate agent. Now, in the past, the online free valuations have been a little bit idiosyncratic, and that's a polite way of saying their valuations haven't always been the most accurate, but AI is going to change that if it hasn't already. Online free valuation tools have been popular for agents because they've allowed you to capture the lead, capture the details of a potential seller. But in my opinion, they really are not the best way to go about getting the details from the seller early on in the consideration process. I really do suggest that you stop using them to capture leads. They're doing you more harm than good. If you've got one on your website, you may want to disable it right now. But what about the leads that it provides you? Many agents will say to me, it provides me with a stream of leads. Okay. The question I tend to ask them is, are those leads any good? Do you know how many of them actually turn into clients? Do you even track this? Because many agents don't. Crucially, what do you do with the leads once you've got them? Because there's no point getting a lead if it just sits in a database somewhere and you don't actually use it to communicate with the potential seller. For all of those reasons, I would suggest that the exercise to get those leads through an online free valuation tool is actually doing you more harm than good. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't a need to capture a potential seller's details early on in the consideration process, but I'm just 100% convinced that free valuation tools are the worst way to go about it, and there are much better ways to do it. Have you ever wondered why estate agents have got such a bad reputation in the UK? Every year, estate agents are ranked as one of the least trustworthy professions, not far behind politicians and shifty advertising people. There's plenty of reasons for this reputation, and as far as I'm concerned, some of them could be fair, most of them are utterly unfair. But I would argue that free valuations have played a part in this reputation. Overly slick, salesy presentations, overvaluing to win the business, and what I mentioned earlier about leaving your potential clients with unsatisfied needs certainly doesn't help. Now, it may be that you've already spoken to a potential seller about what they could afford, and you've pointed them in the direction of properties or areas that might move them towards the pleasure they seek or move them away from the pain that they're currently suffering. In such a case, the valuation figure is possibly the final piece in the jigsaw rather than the starting point. Now, if you've managed to have this conversation before the valuation appointment, well done. But from my experience, I'd suggest this doesn't happen all too often, and certainly not in the level of detail required. My main issue with the free valuation beauty parade is when sellers use this as the sole way to inform their decision about who to instruct. From the seller's point of view, an hour in the company of someone who might be financially rewarded for winning the business can't be the best way to make a fully informed, rational decision. That would be the case if they were thinking about changing their car or buying a new laptop, and it's certainly the case when they're dealing with the sale of their family home and potentially their most valuable 6 or 7 figure asset. For agents, it can load massive pressure onto the person who's going round to provide the valuation. They're often expected to go from total stranger to trusted advisor in under an hour. Now, if that's you and you're faced with this challenge, there are plenty of ways to combat this and stack the cards unfairly in your favour, but that's something for another day and another video. For now, I just wanted to put the thought in your mind that you might never be able to fully escape the free valuation beauty parade, but you can do a lot to minimise how much of an impact it has on the fortunes of your estate agency business. At the end of the day, my major problem with free valuations isn't the freeness of the whole thing. Having said that, it's at least worth thinking about for a second and mooting the idea that getting a potential seller to pay for your knowledge and expertise may not be the worst idea in the world, and there's plenty of benefits for doing so. One of the most powerful benefits is that by getting them to pay a small fee, say £50 or £100, it's a financial micro commitment, and that small micro commitment will significantly increase your chances of winning the ultimate prize, the instruction. There's years of consumer behaviour, psychological research to back this up, and there's scores of real businesses in a host of other industries who swore blind that it couldn't possibly work for them, but then found out to their delight that it did. But I'll accept that charging a fee for a simple valuation when all your other local competitors are giving that information away for free may not be a recipe for a flood of instructions and instant financial success. But there could be an opportunity to provide a more detailed 100% objective valuation for a fee. Some sellers may see the value in knowing that the valuation isn't being used as an underhand means of winning their business. And what's stopping you from offering something of value other than a free valuation? I mean, there's no big book of estate agency rules that limits what services you can offer your clients. Now, I know that you're restricted on what you can charge tenants in the UK, but there are no similar legal restrictions on what you can charge sellers. There must be plenty of ways to deliver value to the seller before they reach the stage of actually putting their property on the market. You just need to think about something that will appeal to your ideal sellers and move them closer to where they want to be. You could even offer to take the small fee that they've already paid off your main selling fee when they do eventually instruct you to sell their home. So, having explored the freeness problem with free valuations, I'll turn my attention to my main issue, and that is the fact that the whole process is engineered in a way that encourages poor short-term decision making by the sellers. Now, you'll all know those local competitors who seem to be doing very well for themselves despite a completely justified terrible reputation. You'll know that deep down you absolutely wipe the floor with them when it comes to local knowledge, your service and your marketing. But I'm sure, much to your frustration, they're often the agents who are the winners of the free valuation beauty parade. It really is one of those times where the good guys often finish last. But don't you owe it to yourself to try to put an end to this? Reducing your dependency on free valuations is a relatively simple and straightforward process. It's not easy, but it is simple and straightforward. A crucial element of this, which is a good place to start, is shifting your agency from being just another local estate agent to a market of one. Now, as a profession, estate agents are notoriously bad at differentiating themselves. And I'll refer you back to my original question about whether you offer free valuations as one of your USPs on your website. Now, if you've avoided that one, don't feel too smug. The same applies to 437 years of local knowledge and experience. It applies to we're committed to first-class customer service, and it also applies to the classic we care. It's no wonder that sellers base their decisions on the fees you charge. The best-selling author and marketing expert Seth Godin sums it up really well when he says, if your customers only care about your price, it's because you haven't given them anything more interesting to care about. You do need to accept that a proportion of your business will always come from people who go from total stranger to signed up client in a short space of time. There's nothing wrong with that, and in fact, it should be encouraged. But you always want to get inside the heads of potential sellers as early as possible. And often when I say this, I get the comment that that's what the online free valuation tool is for. Getting the email addresses from people who aren't yet ready to move. Yeah, okay, that would be fine if it worked. But do sellers really want countless property market update emails from multiple estate agents clogging up their inbox months before they ever put their house on the market? Because if they've signed up to your list, chances are they've also signed up to some of your competitors too. And it all gets very noisy. Now, notice earlier I said you need to get inside the head of potential sellers. I didn't say you need to send them weekly emails. Bear with me for a second as I go off on a tangent. You might have a favourite musician or a band or an actor or an author. It even works with golf club manufacturers. When that musician or movie star or author or golf club brand brings something new out, if you're a fan, there's a very good chance that you'll become aware of it, even if you don't subscribe to their email list. Now, more often than not, you'll then check it out and you might even rush out straight away to buy whatever it is they're offering. And that's all because that person or that thing has lodged itself deep into your brain. If they're sufficiently unique, memorable, and you clearly connect with them on a deeper level, it can be months or years since you last heard from them, but you're drawn back like moths to a flame. I said this to a client the other day. Frank Sinatra gets over 3 million music streams a day, yet I don't see him grinding away, putting out daily content. Are you starting to see where I'm going here? In some ways, reducing your dependence on free valuations, both in person and online, is only half the story. If you're going to wean yourself off them, one of the most important things that you need to do is to become remarkable and memorable to your local ideal sellers. Now, relax. That doesn't mean you need to spend hours every day posting on Facebook. It doesn't mean you need to start dancing like a twat on TikTok. Clearly, you're going to have to get your message out there, but I very much take a quality over quantity approach. The key thing is to be remarkable, inspirational, and enlightening. And what's the definition of remarkable? It's simple. It's being sufficiently interesting that people proactively remark about you. That doesn't mean Did you see that blah-de-blah estate just won best local agent at the Yesters? Because real people just don't ever say that. It's about having a real point of difference. It's about saying something that makes your ideal sellers sit up and take notice and lodge you in their memory. It's taking a position or stance that you know might attract some people and equally repel others. As a starting point, you should think about the process your ideal sellers go through when considering putting their property on the market. You should think about the fears and concerns they have. You should write a list of the false beliefs that might be holding them back and making the whole thing a lot more difficult than it needs to be. God forbid you could even speak to a few of them. Then, once you've thought about that, you're in a much stronger position to be remarkable with insightful, enlightening, inspirational content that doesn't just add to all the noise. What difference will getting off the free valuation beauty parade make to your business? Well, let's not forget, the whole point of this is to generate high quality seller leads. Leads that will result in instructions that will result in sales, because that's when you get paid. I'm 100% convinced that you stand a much better chance of success if you're the only agent at the table, rather than being one of a handful of unknown agents all invited to pitch their services. And reducing your dependence on the free valuation beauty parade and instead being the only agent at the table is a vital element in changing your fortunes for good. So, would it be useful to go through an exercise where you can quickly estimate the impact that changing your marketing approach to reflect this might have on your business? I've developed a lead pipeline calculator where you plug in a few key figures about your business that you'll already know already. Don't worry if you don't have exact figures to hand. Rough estimates or best guesses are absolutely fine. It's really quick to fill in. It'll take you a minute, 2 minutes at most to complete. Then, in 24 hours, you'll get to see what you could be realistically, reliably, and predictably adding to your pipeline 3 months from now, after making a few simple changes to your marketing approach. The reason it can take up to 24 hours to get your results is because you'll get a fully personalized estimate based on your answers, not a general vanilla copy and paste PDF or even an automated scorecard where you get a few random percentages and then some one-size-fits-all advice. The link to start the calculator is down below. I hope you find that useful, and I hope you found this video useful and insightful, and it started to get you thinking a little bit differently about your business. This is one of 3 videos that I call my Simple Seller Acquisition series. The second one covers the 5 common mistakes that estate agents make in their marketing, and the third one covers what I call conversion multipliers. What that is about is, I appreciate it may take a while to wean yourself off free valuations and get into a position where you are the only agent at the table who a seller is speaking to. So in this video, I give you some helpful tools and techniques that you can use to increase your chances of success if you are invited to a free valuation. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you check out the other 2. And the calculator, again, the link to use that, to check that out, is just below this video.